Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about the AMC squeeze breakout, shorts increased by 2 billion, exposing the shorts, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. AMC 4.4 million shares already borrowed against a $2.89 stock. What are shorts so worried about? So what we have seen recently is the shares available, and we're seeing how it's being drastically used. Now, we've always talked about this in terms of, firstly, the reason why there is even shares available to locate in the first place is because of the synthetics, it's because of the tokens. And that's how they are obviously able to borrow shares and then to short against AMC. And at the end of the day, they are never settled and it just goes on to be stuck in an endless loop. And that's why the shorts have been continuously trapped in this play. And that's why we've said they've sunk in hundreds of millions and billions of dollars into all of the things that we have obviously mentioned in the past. But then not only that, it's about understanding there's a reason why the biggest potential squeeze stocks have so many shares available and CTB is so low. They know what's about to go down, planning in advance, got CTB low as possible, as many shares as possible, just in time for the massive breakout. So we have to realize that when you see stocks that are experiencing what AMC and GME experiencing, you find out there's actually not that many. The ones that actually does experience this is pretty much just AMC and GME, and of course some other stocks which are overly leveraged shorted. And the key word here is about over leveraged shorting. It's about talking about short sellers who've put themselves to too much risk exposure, who are trapped in these plays, and is why we see, all of these things that we have mentioned in the past. And so, especially for the case, AMC and GME, they obviously experienced it the most, and that's why we see all of this. And so, at the end of the day, we talked about when you see these sort of manipulation and suppression happen on the stock, and the more suppression you actually see on there, it just shows truly how manipulated this stock is, but also how many shorts are trapped in this play. And precisely because they're trapped in this play, we understand why the squeeze value will be so much greater than anyone has imagined, and is why the short sellers are afraid to be paying this squeeze price, because they understand that if they got out of this 4 or 5 years ago, they maybe only have to pay $1,000 per share. But because they've done all of this, because they've sunk in billions of dollars extra, because they've created billions of more synthetics, they now have to pay $10,000 per share, $50,000, $100,000 per share. And so that's obviously what they're afraid of, and that's why they always try and tag AMC and GME. You can see every AMC share you buy and hold is one step closer to exposing corruption. Don't forget why you are here. So let's break this down. And for those of you who don't know, essentially the reason why you are still able to buy AMC shares, because we know that retail have already bought up the float of AMC. We're seeing from the OBV as well that no one has sold. So we know that the original float of AMC, what should exist out there, has already been bought up. But the reason why people are still able to buy more shares is because short sellers are creating synthetics of AMC shares every single day to ensure the price doesn't go up. And so that's why when we talk about buying one more share, we're talking about buying one more synthetic. We're talking about forcing these short sellers to obviously create another synthetic. And so all of this, and I think this is a very good example, every share is a brick that is used to keep the shorts trapped without escape in their own self-made prison. And so it's about understanding how we're forcing these shorts to spend money to create synthetics. Now, what does this do? Well, we said firstly, it's going to dry up the liquidity of these short sellers. It's not going to be a big, drain out all at once, but we're gradually tackling away at them. Secondly, it's obviously going to be the more synthetics we force them to create, the bigger the risk, meaning we are accelerating when the squeeze will happen. But not only that, it's about understanding that when the squeeze does happen, if they are creating even more synthetics, then the squeeze price will get even higher. And that's because if they create more shares, they'll have to cover more shares. And if they have to cover more shares, then the price will go even higher. And so it's why we've said they're always trapped in this play. And we've always mentioned, in terms of how this is just a battle in terms of, are the shorts going to give up first, or are the retail apes going to give up first? And now we obviously know the answer to this, and that's why we are still here. And you can see banks are doing everything in their power to hide the inevitable. They're in huge catastrophic trouble. When they collapse, the naive who refuse to believe and pay attention will fall the furthest. Hedge yourselves, don't say you weren't warned. So we've been exposing a lot, we've been talking a lot about on this channel recently about the situation that the overall economy is on. And we talked about institutions like banks, we talked about institutions like short sellers and hedge funds and just these funds in general. And now what we can see is that they are not in a good position. We've talked about the swaps positions that's being highlighted and exposed as massive risk swaps. We talked about how people are being forced to increase their margin requirements because the likelihood of defaulting is increasing every single day. We talked about how short sellers have the derivative positions that are in the trillions, especially these banks. And so all of this is just showing the economy in terms of showing the market and how much risk there is. And we have to remember, whoever goes out first will trigger the squeeze no matter what. If it's the banks going out first, that means they will have to recall the loans. That means all the money they've lent out to these hedge funds, they will obviously have to be recalled back. And in order for shorts to actually pay that back, they will have to cover AMC. And what's that going to do is going to trigger the squeeze. And vice versa. If the short sellers were to go out first and they would default, then they have to cover this position as well. Which would that mean? AMC and GME will squeeze. And so you understand how we're in a situation right now where no matter who goes out first, the squeeze will happen. And the thing about this is that anyone can go out in this current market apart from the retail investors, because we haven't put ourselves in a position where we are risking hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. And most importantly, we are not over leveraging ourselves in the 100, 200, 300x ratio. And so that's why, they are doing everything they can to hide what's happening. And then you can take a look at this. Virtue Financial short sales have increased by over $2 billion in the last 6 months. And if we want to take a detailed look, you can see from this. December 31st of 2024, we're looking at 6.4 billion. June 30th of 2025, we're looking at 8.4 billion. So their sold not yet purchased, aka short positions, has obviously increased by $2 billion. What's more important is 58.68% of it were equity securities, which are subject to market risk such as interest rates. Now, if you guys have been paying attention, back during April, May, during these months, starting from February, we talked about how short sellers who took massive short positions all experienced heavy losses. We highlighted it with Citadel and some other firms, but we talked about in general, short sellers were not doing well in those situations. And we are also talking about how recently we talked about how Doug Sifu is obviously retiring as CEO of Virtue. And with what we've seen with the Virtue short positions going up, and remember, the Virtue financials have not been doing well. If anything, they've been doing extremely bad. And so we're seeing a company where their CEO left, who, by the way, and we all know their CEO or their previous CEO was someone who was extremely vocal about shorting AMC. So we knew they took a massive short position in AMC. And so the very fact we are seeing their short positions increasing by over $2 billion, we know that 58% were in equity securities, and we know that, again, CEO leaving, you can see that clearly they are not doing well. And so, when they say that we have covered, we have, not shorting AMC anymore, we know that that's not the case. These short sellers continuously say this, yet when you take a look at their sheets, we're seeing how their short positions are increasing. We're seeing how their profits is going down because it's not doing well for them. And that's why we've been talking about how badly these shorts have been doing. And then you can see this, is most watched stock AMC Entertainment worth betting on now, as we're seeing. Now, when we take a look at these articles, I want to highlight one thing, which is about these articles that you see. At the end of the day, there are only very few who are doing it out of their best interest and are looking at it from a non-biased view. A non-biased view is very, very important. It's why I try to keep my videos, as always, in terms of if there is a fundamental point, we've talked about this, there are good sides and there are bad sides, right? And we always talk about the two sides. But a lot of times these articles, they try and rope people in to believe that AMC is a bad company, or they give a good title, but what they're saying is obviously bad. Now, this isn't to say that there is nothing bad about AMC. We know that there are areas for AMC to improve on, and that's a given. They can obviously improve their market structure in terms of their business structure, in terms of some of the operations. That's always a given, right? I'm not saying that AMC is the perfect company with no mistakes, but it's about understanding. Make sure you do your own due diligence. Make sure you truly understand, what is going on, so that when you see this information, you can obviously digest for yourself and be able to differentiate what's actually right and wrong. But yeah, guys, as always, this is financial advice. Do take a lot of grain of salt. Make sure to do your own due diligence and research, and I'll catch you guys next time.